this is John Bollinger with Premier Guitar. I am at the Gibson plant in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm with Cesar, who's going to tell me and all of us about what's going on at Gibson. Cesar, thanks so much for having us here.
Thank you for being at our house.
Yeah, what a treat, man, to be surrounded by all this. I feel like, I don't know, it's Christmas or something. So, Gibson has been through some huge changes in 2018. What can players expect to see coming out of Gibson now? What are some of these changes, and what do they mean to us as guitar buyers?
All of our changes are really tailored to going back to the core. It's going back to basics, paying tribute to our golden era of innovation. You know, everything that happened under Ted McCarty's watch, and being custodians of what happened at that time, and obviously what Orville started in 1894, and so celebrating our 125th anniversary this year.
Isn't that amazing?
But it's really looking back at that, learning from that, going back to those models and designs that everybody loves, and then evolving the company into the future around some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But it's really going back to trying to see Gibson on every stage, dominating stages around the world, being the most relevant, played, and loved guitar and music company. So hopefully we can learn from that and shape sound for the next 125 years.
Right, and Gibson really has. It is kind of amazing how Gibson has shaped the sound. I mean, it's changed music. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we look at that and say, what can we learn with what Gibson's done across genres of music over the last 124 years, and how influential we've been, and then evolving that into the future. But it really starts with a product, getting that right, getting the product that everybody knows is the DNA of Gibson.
Sure.
And Epiphone for that matter as well.
Yeah.
So all of our brands, and then evolving that into the future, but really, you know, paying tribute to that. And I feel personally responsible as a custodian of the brand to work with guys like you, with our artists, with our fans, to make sure that the tool that we're making becomes the most loved one in studio stages and at home.
Sure. Well, okay, and speaking of that, in the past there's been the Nashville, well, originally Kalamazoo, then the Nashville plant, and the Memphis plant, and then the Bozeman plant where the acoustics are made. And the word is you're kind of streamlining things a little bit.
Yeah.
So what's the lineup now?
We're actually making a very big investment here in Nashville. You know, when I understand you're going to come back in a couple of months, and we're going to show you what we're doing in the factory.
Ooh, good. Yeah, good. Love that.
But yeah, we're really making a very big investment in Nashville, in our factory, and we had to get out of our Memphis location anyway. And so the decision we made was, since we're investing in Nashville, we're based in Nashville, we're a Nashville-centric company, was to double down here, expand our factory, make that investment, bring our semi-hollow production in here, relocate people, and again, invest in our DNA, as opposed to having to find a location in Memphis where we would be moving just across the street.
Sure.
That really, from a management perspective and leadership decision, we decided that didn't make any sense. And so we're bringing it all here. This is our house. However, we have our factory in Montana, where we make our acoustic instruments, and that's a perfect environment weather-wise.
Right.
For, you know, how we need to treat wood. And then that's a location we've had for over 30 years, and the level of craftsmanship that's developed over there is something we're really proud of. So we're actually expanding that factory as well, because we're introducing some new things and allowing that factory to grow. And so we're investing in our Bozeman, Montana plant as well, heavily.
That's great.
And we hope that that's going to be reflected in the instruments that we're putting out.
Yeah, they're doing amazing work there. I'm actually from Montana, for what it's worth, and I've been to the plant there. It's incredible. They're just doing great work. So that's exciting to have everything other than the acoustics under one roof. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, and then we have our custom shop, which is also here in Nashville, and that's where we take craftsmanship to another level. We've recently had some of our recent production of 59s and 58s, 57s in the hands of the biggest collectors and geeks. I'm allowed to say that word because I'm one.
yeah, that's all of us.
And we're really proud of the level of accuracy, both in specs and sound, of what we have achieved there.
Okay, that's the perfect segue to talking about your new line, what you're putting out next.
Yeah.
And we should start with this.
Yeah.
So this is the new Les Paul Standard and tell me about this guitar. I mean, I just literally picked it off the shelf, and it plays great, and it has that whole vibe.
Right.
Know?
And this is the Les Paul Standard.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you asked any one of us to draw the Les Paul Standard,
right,
this is what we would draw.
Totally,
right?
it's Jimmy Page. It's
right?
down low,
yeah.
loud. Yeah.
So going back to your earlier question and going back to the core and paying tribute to that golden era, we are talking about a new line of classics, which include the Les Paul Standard, and this one in particular is a 50s spec standard, which.
So like 59 feel.
Yeah, we went back to like a 59 feel on the neck. It's got the vintage tuners. We went with the Alnico 2 burst puckers. You can see the vintage tuners. It's not chambered. It's got the orange drop capacitors on the back.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I mean it's the Les Paul Standard.
Oh, that's great. And for not chambered, it's not a particularly heavy guitar.
Yeah, when that'll vary between guitars,
sure,
as we all know. But I mean, the idea is not to. I mean, weight does not necessarily translate into sound, into the perfect sound. As you know, some of the most iconic and best sounding 59 bursts are not that heavy.
Yeah.
Right.
And you went with the burst bucker pickups.
And this one has the Alnico 2 magnets, whereas we also have a 60s standard where the difference in the pickups is Alnico 5 magnets.
Then let's do this. Let's do a quick taste test. Man, it's so great the way these things clean up. Just roll it down a little bit. You get so much expression just with tone and volume. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so this is the 59 roughly. Yeah,
so we say it's a 50s spec Les Paul
50
Standard.
spec, and then this, can I grab the 60?
Yep.
Which is it's totally got that Brother Dwayne vibe, right?
Exactly.
Oh man, I love that detail. What do you call that? What are those?
Reflector knobs.
Oh,
and then, we've done, on this one in particular, you'll feel it's a more slim taper neck. And it's got the Grovers.
Right. Again, very, very Brother Dwayne. I love that's too cool. Man.
And the Alnico 5s, and that's basically, that's it.
Wow, man, what a great guitar. Okay, so to take this to like next level geekdom, I see you got Jim DeCola here. Jim, tell us about this, man. What were you doing between this one and the
50 spec?
Yeah.
We wanted to capture both, and you know, our fans are very divided. You know, so many of them prefer the faster, slimmer taper neck that we did in 1960. Others like the more you know, rounder profile from the 50s, and they're very passionate about what they like. So we decided to do both the 50s and 60s spec, and the 60s that you're holding here not only has a slim taper neck, but we have the Grovers, as I mentioned earlier, the reflector knobs. All of our guitars now have the true historic taper on the electronics. On the, they're all 500K pots all around. The true vintage taper, so when you roll it down, it's a very smooth taper. It doesn't have any bumps and humps.
It totally is. It's just so expressive.
Yeah, we measured a variety of original pots and then worked with our CTS, our pot vendor, to replicate that taper. And it took us a few years to actually get all the models on board, but you know, as of last year, they're all with that spec. So it's historic and better performing, and just gives you the maximum output from the guitar. Prior to that, we were using some 300K pots, you know, that started during the Norlin year, and a lot of people didn't realize that when that was on 10, that would be equivalent to a 500K pot on 6.
Really?
Yeah, so you wonder what that does to your sound, your you know, pickup. People would, you know, swap pickups maybe because they didn't think they were giving it up. And a lot of that was because of the pots.
Wow.
So we got the pots, you know, all the values corrected, and then the taper, so you have that smoother taper when you're rolling it.
Yeah, it is.
So that's
smooth.
it's subtle, but it's huge.
Totally. Hey, so out of curiosity, how does the finish differ from, say, in 1960 or 1959?
We're still using true nitrocellulose lacquer.
You guys never got off the nitro thing. You never went plastic.
No, that's just one of our features that we feel very passionate about. So if it's a Gibson, it's true nitrocellulose lacquer.
Yeah.
And even on a solid body electric, it does affect the tone. So we feel passionate to continue that tradition. Not only the tone, but just the look. It's a thinner finish. You know, a lot of people just think you want to pile it on as thick as you can, but that's not really what you want to do. You want it as thick as you can get it to look proper, but not too thick to where it'll you know, hamper the vibrations and resonance of the guitar. So it's just thin enough to buff and to provide the sheen that we're looking for. And you know, we average about 10 mils or so, 10 to 12 mils on a completed guitar, which is very thin. And you get a lot better clarity. It's just a more transparent look. You know, when you compare it to some of the polys, they'll be thicker, and you know, especially on natural shade guitars, it just doesn't have that transparency.
Sure, and these age so well. You get such a great patina, you know.
Yeah, they do.
They become
over
like
time.
an old friend.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's too cool. Okay, let's
other features. Oh, let me, if I could interrupt.
Yeah.
Another detail we're adding this year on the 50s and 60s on the Classic series, we're going back to the thin fingerboard binding. So that just, you know, gives it a more period correct look and a very, very subtle feel, because now with the thinner binding, you actually have more fret surface. So it's a subtle but important feature. So little things like that, we're getting back on track. And you know, of course, a few years ago we went to the aluminum stop bar tailpiece and steel studs. So all the main features in the hardware, electronics, and the construction of the guitar are now period correct.
You can tell that when I told Jim this is where we're going, he was not opposed to it.
Right. Yeah, a long time.
Preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah, right. That is totally your bag. Well, great. Well, let's look at more. You've got a bunch of stuff here. What do we want to look at next?
Why don't we look at the standard with P90s,
Ooh,
which you
I had hoped.
Too.
So tell me about this thing.
That's made in the 50s spec tradition, just like our 50s standard with humbuckers, but we have the P90s in it like we did, you know, at this point we have the two-pneumatic and the stop bars. That would be representative of like the 56, 57 era, right?
Sure.
And the P90s, you know, are Gibson's longest running pickup. Originally debuted in 1946.
Wow.
Walter Fuller did them. They also, not only did they do the P90s as we know them here with the screws, but they also did 6 Alnico rod magnets. and 46 too. So there's a lot of cool history along with that pickup, and a lot of people are, especially now, there's lately, in the past few years, a lot of younger players discovering them. And it's just a really unique voice.
Oh, they're so great. I mean, they got all that spank. Just buttery, man.
They're just a big, fat, single coil voice. And a lot of people, you know, just because they are single coil, a lot of people think they're going to be thinner than a humbucking. But compared to your average PAF, it's really the same, you know, output level.
Sure.
When Seth Lover designed the humbucking, he just took a P90. He was just trying to make that quiet, get rid of the hum.
Right.
So since P90s were designed with 10,000 turns of 42, he just made two smaller bobbins with 5,000 turns each. So they both have, you know, approximately the same amount of wire and Alnico magnet. So it's just a big, fat, warm, single coil voice.
Wow, it's true. Those the PAFs that I've heard or played, they are kind of they're not that overwhelmed big sound. They're more kind of you know, clear and chimey.
They do have that chime thing, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. They just assume because it's two coils, it's naturally going to be hotter.
Yeah.
And we and other makers, you know, offer hotter pickups, which do offer that.
Sure.
But the classic PAFs were not all that hot.
Oh yeah, and they're so great dirty too, you know. Yeah, what else could you want? So,
incidentally, one little thing I may add, seeing that it's the Goldtop with the P90s, one of the iconic classic rock song, "The Wall" by Pink Floyd, Gilmour actually used a Goldtop 56 with a Bigsby and P90s.
Really?
That's the solo. Yeah.
See, this is that great geekdom that we love. I didn't know that. That's so great. So, okay, finish-wise, what I've heard is that the original Goldtops had copper in the paint, and that's where you got the oxidizing
and brass. Brass flake.
So is that the case? And are you still using that on these? Or?
No, now we're using a more modern blend. We've replicated it so it captures that vintage brass look.
Because it totally looks
right. Yeah, but it doesn't.
Spot
Illinois
on.
Bronze is originally the company that did that old flake, and it did. Even in the '80s, when I was at the music store working, you'd have customers, who may have bought a new guitar. Gibsons were still using that in the '80s, and I remember seeing Goldtops and Candy Apple Red Les Pauls, where because of the acid in certain players' sweat, would just turn that rim of the guitar green.
Sure.
So that, it's one of those features for us that we didn't want to necessarily replicate that. That's not really a good thing. Although the patina can be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
I like the green. Yeah.
Well, that's why we have a custom shop.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So if you want to go that route, that's great. So this is your standard. This is not a custom shop. This
is our Les Paul standard.
God,
it's just with P90s. I think that's a sound like you were just loving. That's a sound a lot of us love, and we thought it should be offered with a P90 pickup setup.
Very cool. Okay, what's next?
So next in our portfolio of classics is what you're holding there, which is our Les Paul Special, which we decided to go on the TV yellow finish that's so iconic in our history.
Right.
And I think hopefully will be very well received. We've tested with a couple of fans and artists, and it's, as you're feeling the neck, it's a 50s spec, TV yellow special, Jim, you want to talk about a little bit of the features?
Sure. We went back and replicated the TV finish, so you can see that translucence and see the grain highlighted like the original. We have the wraparound bridge, 2 P90s.
Hey, so on the bridge, do you feel like there's any, that was kind of the Achilles heel of the vintage specials, but this, damn, that feels like.
Yeah, the new wraparound has a little bit more articulate peak on the top crest of the bridge.
Okay.
So it just is better performing. Some of the original ones, actually my 57, I put a new bridge on because it was kind of soft. So depending where you're playing on the neck, it might not ring as true as it should or clear. So yeah, we put some work into that, and that takes care of that. And again, a lot of players are really into that whole wraparound vibe.
Sure.
Some guys are just, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And that's what the deal is with that guitar. It's just a very tried and true classic. And with the 2 P90s and the wraparound, it's just a solid workhorse.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing how the intonation is solid. No glitches at all. It's like magic. Yeah, because my 54 was very glitchy before I changed out the bridge, and I've got a 58 Junior that's like above, I don't know, above the 10th. It gets pretty dodgy.
One thing we did a few years ago too was recalculated the fret scale, so it didn't really change, but it just became more accurate.
Wow.
So the intonation throughout the fingerboard has better intonation. So it's not anything you could perceive unless you had calipers to literally measure it. It doesn't change the pickup placement or the fingerboard length, but frets 1 through 11 are very slightly shifted to become more accurate, and then 13 to the 22nd, same thing. So
okay, well
it's more accurate now, where a lot of guys would go back and tune and like maybe tweak a string here and there and hit a chord and do all that. It's a lot more accurate in that respect.
Well then the obvious question is, are the modern guitars better than the classics? I mean, are you making better guitars now than in '59?
Well,
we like to think so.
We would love for that to be the outcome, but that's you guys, our fans, right?
Yeah.
The artist, the fan, you are the ones that need to make that conclusion.
Oh, well, I mean, it would seem, I mean, there's kind of just magic in old guitars, like something happens. But, really, if you, as we talked about in the past, Gibson's an innovative company. They've always been trying to tweak the secret sauce and make it that much better. And actually
listening to players.
Yeah, and actually, intonation on old Les Pauls is an issue, and if you've taken care of that, man.
But we agree with you, and we feel that passion for the vintage instruments, which is the inspiration to go back to the core and pay tribute to that with these instruments you're trying. Yeah,
well, that's great. Okay, this is fabulous, and I love the TV yellow. That's great. Okay, let's. I guess you've got a junior next. Let's get into that.
This is another one of the examples that we brought back into the portfolio of classics in our lineup, which is a very iconic model in the probably most iconic finish, which is the Junior.
Totally.
Jim, you want to talk about specs?
It has the classic 50s neck profile, the wraparound bridge, and the dog ear. The dog ear P90, a lot of players, again, this is one of those guitars that just has legions of fans. It's been on all sorts of records. Mississippi Queen is probably one of the most notable.
Right.
Leslie West used it to great effect on that for sure. And one of the phenomenons with the Junior is because of that single dog ear, it makes players play a little more dynamically. They have one pickup, right? They're not going to switch from pickup to pickup. So a lot of players who adopt that, tend to play with a different kind of dynamics than other players who would use multi-pickup guitars.
Yeah, they're amazing instruments, and it's incredible that it was kind of like a student model, right, when they first came out.
Absolutely.
That was the concept.
And but there's some kind of magic, I think, in having one pickup. I think it's because maybe the other is not, you don't have that magnetic pole.
That could
they
be.
just seem to like. Sweet, man.
Some players even say that they like the single pickup thing. Again, you know, it makes them play dynamic, and they don't have to worry about switching anything. They just worry about playing.
Yeah, and so many people used juniors. I know Whitford and Aerosmith played one a lot. I don't know, tons of people.
I mean, it goes from since we started making the junior and all those iconic players to a lot of our young generations of players are actually gravitating towards the junior. I mean, look at what's Lucas Nelson's doing right now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the sounds that
Absolutely.
he's able to get out of a junior just with the control and the tone. I think it's one of those guitars that it just offers so much versatility, even though it's got a single pickup.
And essentially, this is built to 50s classic specs. This is
slab mahogany body, mahogany neck, rosewood fingerboard, everything you'd expect out of that era guitar.
well, with a better bridge, and it's like you
classic P90.
fix the one Achilles heel, and it's great. Okay, cool. All right, let's look at something else.
Yeah.
What's next?
So in addition to our Les Paul lineup in the portfolio of classics, we also have the SGs. John, you're holding there our new SG 61 spec with a Maestro Vibrola, which will be part of our core line.
Oh, cool. So I'm curious, what made you choose this, the Maestro? I mean, they're great, but I remember the original. That is great. It works really well. Is that why you chose it over because originally the 61 had that weird
sideways.
the sideways
Yeah.
wanger,
Which they're both in the line.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just happen to be holding the Maestro, but both guitars are available, Maestro and sideways.
Cool that people have choices.
In addition to the one with the, with the stop tailpiece, just a regular 61 spec guitar, and then Jim's holding our special version with a wraparound.
Oh, love that.
In this iconic Pelham blue color, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this covers all of them. That's really great.
We also have the Junior, so that would be the single pickup dog ear version of this.
Sure.
So we are representing, like we did with the Les Paul family, we did the same thing with the SG family to try to represent all our iconic models from that time period.
Cool. Cool. So is this, pickup-wise, are you doing the Burstbuckers in this as well?
We're doing the Burstbucker 61s, which have the Alnico 5 magnet. That was the year they went to Alnico 5. And so they're a variation of the Burstbucker. They still have the offset coils, so you get a little bit more cut than two truly matched coils. And then the Alnico 5 gives you that brightness and output that is associated with the 5.
Cool. SG solid guitar, right?
Solid body guitar, that's it.
Very cool.
And that one right there with the Maestro Vibrola was similar to the one that George Harrison had during the Revolver era.
Right.
So when I wanted to play guitar, that was the one. That was one I had to have.
Right.
Now you still have it. Your first guitar.
They didn't have a cherry red Maestro Vibrola SG, so I got an ebony SG. This year I will have that. I will finally have it.
I'll make sure that happens.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. So, do Gibson employees get a guitar every year? How does it work?
It's just not like that. But,
just wondering. We're all curious. Okay, we'll move on.
He doesn't know it yet.
He doesn't know yet, but there might be. Well, cool.
But we're really proud of the tweaks we made, and obviously this is a new model, but how we went back to accuracy with dimensions, specs, neck profiles, binding, tuners, choice of pickups and so forth. I think Jim and his team have done an amazing job, and hopefully that all of our fans will love it too.
So does Gibson have like a cache of vintage guitars that you use as a reference?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have like a 61 laying around the shop that you?
We do have access to them. We have some, that some of us own personally. We have some, in our archives that we can refer to.
Yeah.
And that's one thing with vintage guitars too. They're not all, you could have
Right.
5 different 61 SGs, and they'll all be a little bit different.
Sure.
So what we try to do is capture that vibe. We're not actually going after one particular guitar,
Yeah.
just the main appointments and vibe of that guitar. The sculpting on the body is one of those things that can vary somewhat. Some are a little sharper than others, so we try to get that average that in most players' eyes is representative of what they expect.
Sure.
So that's what we're shooting for.
Sounds like there's a Premier Guitar episode going into the vault.
yeah, right. Let's go to the vaults. Yeah, okay, that's cool. All right, SG's covered. What do we want to look at next?
So I think we should talk about what we're doing in terms of innovation now, taking it forward. We
Yeah.
talked about our portfolio of classics,
Sure.
and let's talk about our portfolio of contemporary guitars.
Great. Where are we going?
So my suggestion would be we start with the absolutely brand new Les Paul Modern.
Les Paul Modern.
And
okay.
what I'm holding here is the SG Modern. And the concept in our contemporary lineup, and particularly these two, which are new, is taking all the features that people loved about the products we made in the past that incorporate more modern and innovative designs, such as the weight relief, the slim taper neck with the, as you can see there, the shaved access where it joins the body for full access to the fretboard, ebony fingerboard, and we basically took all the positive feedback from artists and fans of what they loved about some of the models we've made in the past and created these two, the Les Paul and the SG Modern.
The Les Paul Modern, as Cesar pointed out, has this sculpted access neck joint. So that affords greater access to the higher fret areas.
Sure,
and,
yeah,
still
plenty of
has
room
a
there.
conventional neck joint. So it's not drastically different from what our fans would expect from a traditional guitar. It has the asymmetrical neck shape. So it's slim taper, but it's asymmetrical. So it's a little bit thinner on the bottom side. And the way your hand is shaped, the theory is that, it's a little fuller here and a little slimmer here. So it just kind of fits your hand. It's a very subtle feel. You just kind of notice it like, wow, that's just a comfortable neck.
Huh.
But it's not a very drastic feel difference. And then, going back to ebony for the fingerboard is a big deal for us. We've stayed away from it for a number of years. Now we brought it back on these models.
Well, okay, so the standard's never had ebony, right? It's always been
Not
like
standard.
a custom thing.
Yeah, correct.
Rosewood.
Yeah. So you're going ebony on these.
Ebony, yeah, and true mother of pearl fingerboard inlays.
Cool.
And then they're Burst Bucker, Rhythm Pro, and Lead Pro Plus pickups. So they're still in the Burst Bucker family, but they have Alnico 5 magnets, and they're a hotter wind, which is what more modern players, have requested. We still have the aluminum stop bar tailpiece with the steel studs, and then the Tune-O-Matic is now made out of aluminum and has steel studs. So it's just a bit more resonant. And then we have on the Les Paul 4 push-pull pots.
Cool. Yeah. So what are these doing? What do we get out of these push pulls?
On the volume control, you have a coil tap for each pickup, and a coil tap is a partial split. So we're using a filter to filter out certain frequencies, so the result is a still primarily hum-canceling pickup selection and a fatter single coil voice.
Okay.
So you're not going to get that hum.
So this would be the single coil like that?
For the neck, yes.
Okay, so say we're up here. Okay, that's straight up. And here's single coil. It's funny, there's like no volume drop.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
big benefit of that. So a lot of players, who are looking for that voice, but if they pull a split, then the volume drops. Now they have to step on something to bring it back
Sure.
up. So this is a balanced output. It's just mainly changing the voice of that pickup without affecting the volume balance, and then still retaining hum canceling.
I want to try on the bridge as well. So, okay, so here's the bridge, it's straight. Wow, yeah, totally the same.
How does the neck feel when you go?
Yeah, it feels great. Boy, you got some access up there, right? Jeez, man.
That's the idea.
Yeah, yeah, you can get all the notes. Yeah, all of them, and more. Yeah, okay, very cool.
Also with the electronics, on the tone control for the neck pickup, we have a phase switch. So you can get that out of phase when both pickups are combined.
Okay, so
You'll get that Peter Green kind of sound.
So that would be on with which one of these?
That would be the rhythm tone or the neck tone control if you pull that up.
Okay. Yeah, totally hear that. Yeah, very cool.
And then with blending the two pickups, you can kind of get different shades of that too, because as you blend one pickup down, you're kind of phasing out or reducing some of that phase cancellation, so you can kind of
sure.
Zero in on that vowel kind of like response.
Right, that's... That's a lot of crayons in the box there, right?
And the cool thing is, when everything is down, it's just a stock historic spec Les Paul. So it has the vintage taper pots, and if some players may use the taps, some may never use the phase, or maybe some guys won't use the taps, but maybe only the phase. So it's in there if you want to use it. You don't have to use all the selections, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see when all this stuff is out, like what is going to sell the most, you know? Because you don't know. I mean, there's guys like me that lean towards the older stuff, but then there's all, all these.
We see that with a lot of our fans. Younger fans, will like, colors, for instance. They'll like a lot of colors.
Sure.
That maybe, players like us who are more traditional, maybe not into.
Yeah.
But they and you can see it in sales. Certain colors will just really, really run with those younger players and do really well. Same thing with certain other features, in terms of hardware or electronics. Locking tuners is another thing. The younger players are really receptive to that.
Yeah.
It offers, besides the tuning stability, just the ease of string changing. So again, there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you're into, and a lot of the younger and more modern players are just more receptive to that.
Cool, lots of options.
And we've kept it simple with the color options as well.
Yeah.
So these, as you can see, are solid sort of metallic finishes.
Yeah, great. Now, tell me about this color.
So this on the SG is a trans black finish that we decided to put in the core line. This is the SG Modern, as we were just talking about, which I'll hunt to you now in a second. Again, it's keeping it simple with some of the details. In this particular case, we've got a maple cap on this guitar, which brings those flames out, right? And it gives you that nice, feel for the top of the guitar that it really showcases and looks really cool. So that was the idea. I mean, check it out.
Yeah. I wonder if does the maple make it a little brighter, do you think?
Well, yes, definitely. Every guitar with maple will have that effect.
And that's a cool twist on this guitar, because the maple top and mahogany kind of allows this model to sit in between the classic Les Paul and a classic SG.
Sure.
So it's kind of that hybrid of both sonically, and that extra maple in the top not only helps with the tone of the guitar, but it's a little bit thicker body, and it just balances a little bit different. It's a little bit more body heavy than a vintage style SG, and just has a little more girth. We've also
I like
moved the strap pin,
That
so
totally
again,
makes sense.
it helps balance.
Right. Yeah, that is just, and it always was kind of like your strap was a little bit in your way, right?
Right, right.
Huh.
Well, and that also addresses the issue of the guitar being top heavy.
Yeah. That feels really nice. Come on, you can't resist.
Yeah,
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. Wow. And this has all the same appointments as that one as far as...
It has the coil taps, but because of the size and the control cavity, we opted to just stick with the taps for each pickup. So on that particular model, we didn't do the phase or the pure bypass.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Love it. What's next? Okay, so now we're in the contemporary line, and this is...
So these are our Explorer and V, which are a designer series that's very well known. We started making in '58.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? How inventive was Ted McCarty to come up with something this radically different?
Totally,
You know?
totally, and obviously this is a tribute to that.
Yeah.
And in this case, we make them out of mahogany, but all the appointments are essentially what the fans would expect, and this play really close to my heart as a heavy and metalhead that I am. So I've always been attracted to these shapes since I was a little kid. So very excited about these guitars, and they really
It sounds killer, man.
you should try
What
it.
a rock and roll machine this thing is. Isn't it cool in the 50s they were making cars that look like spaceships and then guitars that look like spaceships?
Yeah, it was a whole space race.
Yeah, I love it. So why did you go mahogany instead of Carina? Is it just like an availability or a
Partly
sonic
availability
decision?
and stability.
Yeah.
You have to go through a lot of Carina, and in our scale of volume, it's kind of hard to get stable material like that.
Right. I mean, when you think about the original line, how many V's did they make? Like 80?
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot, that's for sure.
And there were like 20 of these made or something like that?
Yeah, we're working on sourcing Carina. It's not that easy to source.
Yeah.
It's African limba, and it's basically a type of mahogany, which these are made out of mahogany. So.
And I wonder if there's any sonic difference.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different type of wood, and we're excited about getting some Carina, some African limba, some of the things that we're going to be doing in the future out of the custom shop.
But this is just a standard line, not a custom
core line, designer series inside of what everybody will expect to see on every one of our dealer shops.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember Hamer began making, Explorers.
Yeah.
Joel, who's one of our writers, he said, well, the reason we were making Explorers is because you couldn't find them. They were just not existent. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool that they could just...
No, they're an integral part of our line.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, how cool. Okay, great. And this essentially
Yeah, essentially it would share the same features, 2 volumes, master tone, pickup selector switch. We chose the Burstbucker 3 and the Burstbucker 2 because when we were mapping them out, we kind of thought we'd kind of straddle both the 50s and the 70s versions of these models. So in the case of the V, you know, we kind of redesigned the pick guard, so it's kind of a hybrid between the 50s and the 70s. You know, a smaller form like the 50s, but you know, kind of based off of the 70s in terms of the control placement. But other than that, we were going
that's
for...
right. Well, I forgot they were in a row.
Yeah, right. And then we went with the slim taper neck, so it's kind of like a lot of people refer to it as the 60s slim taper. So it's a very fast neck, but it's not too slim. And again, it's kind of straddling what we did in the 50s and some of our other Explorers that had the ultra slim neck.
Sure. And you went with instead of that huge Gibson like the original went, you went with a...
Yeah, we went with our standard
subtle
logo inlaid in the headstock. And again, we got away from that larger Flying V truss rod with the Gibson logo on that we used in the 70s. We just thought it was more upscale and richer to have the logo on the headstock itself instead of on the truss rod cover.
Yeah, cool. Okay, very cool thing to have in the line. What's next?
So why don't we move into our semi-hollow?
Oh yeah,
line.
great, yeah. Okay, so now we are in the hollow body line. Tell me what we're dealing with here.
Well, this is one that obviously needs no introduction. You know,
Sure.
It's our classic, you know, ES 335 TDC. We also have with us Mike Volz, who's our master magician when it comes to semi-hollow production.
We go, yeah, Mike and I go way back, like the 90s.
Yeah. So yeah, no, very excited about the guitar you're holding because we've made a great leapway in sort of craftsmanship, manufacturing, specs, attention to detail, you know, quality of the instrument, the pickups. I think, Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about where we've taken the 335?
I'd love to. What you've got right now is our 335 figured. That's really special this year. We started working with thermally aged wood a couple of 3 years ago. And it's such an amazing way to treat the wood and to pre-age it, and you get tone out of it that's just next worldly.
So you don't have to wait 20 years of playing. It comes
20, 50.
Yeah,
and you can just hear the difference so well. But so for this year, for the 335 figured, what we've done is we're using thermally aged the maple center block, and we actually have a tone chamber in it. So if you pick it up, it's a very light guitar.
yeah.
It is very light. And we've stepped it up for the bracing. We have quarter sawn Adirondack spruce bracing,
Wow.
thermally aging that as well. Gibson at some point in the 50s was using some Adirondack, but it's so amazing. The tone is so beautiful.
Wow,
It really
that's,
is.
I mean, that's like really acoustic instrument thinking.
That's where well, you know, that's my background.
Yeah.
So what'll happen is you'll take these guitars and you play it, and I've had artists, I called one guy, I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, I haven't plugged it in yet. Been playing it for 2 days, but it's
just
Yeah.
play it around.
you
Yeah.
just play it. Then once you plug it in, you've got even more. So, but that's what's inside that guitar. Then to add just more to it, we've got a 50s style neck. We work with a lot of artists to get that neck dialed in just right. And what it is, it's a 59 profile, 50 thousandths thinner. So you get that nice, soft feel.
You know, that sounds so
I mean, it's still a 15
small,
yeah, it's still
but
a 59.
you feel
50
it.
thousandths is, but you feel it.
Oh.
Because some of the guys said, well, you know, the bigger neck is a bit much after a full show. So
Yeah.
we just dialed in, it's perfect. It's my favorite neck. And so we also took, as I remember I came across a junior, an old junior, and there was something that was just felt great. Turns out it was just very rounded in. So
From like where or like?
this was rolled. They rolled them by hand.
Yeah.
So they were different.
Yeah.
And this particular one, I was restoring it, and it was like, something's magic. And you just study it, and it was like, wait a minute, they've rolled it in farther. So we're taking it a point to roll this in, so when you pick it up, you don't feel a sharp edge, you don't feel,
Yeah, it's like an old
it
friend.
feels like it's been there for a long time.
Now, is this this top, you see like kind of a maple flame. Is that,
yeah.
what's the deal there? What do we got?
Well, maple you find maple in all varieties.
Yeah.
Some of the most beautiful maple is a big flamey, or we get some of the stuff that's got the little bird's eye. We're always trying to find some really interesting, wonderful, exotic look. And for this guitar, we're going with a nice, solid flame. So we were bringing that up. We've got a wonderful dark rosewood, and we're using the MH2 pickups this year, MHS2, and those are a little bit more of a T-top. So they have that same clarity because we're not potting them.
Oh, really?
We started working with Rusty Anderson a number of years ago to recreate his 59. And we spent a year and a half or so working with him, and one of our engineers, Jim, finally dialed in the pickups, we call the MHS. And part of the magic was they weren't potted.
Really?
A little underwound, because PAFs weren't terribly powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
They were simply tonally beautiful.
Huh. So do you get a little microphonic bit from that?
Just a bit. And this year for these, we're using the poly-coated wire. They're the MHS2, so you get a little faster attack on the front end. The MHS sort of blooms when you hit it, and this is right there.
Huh. Wow, man. That's a lot. Yeah, cool, man. Really buttery. It's funny. I've got a 69, and with, I guess they're patent pickups in it.
Yes.
And it doesn't have any of that sparkle like this one has. It's a little dead for whatever reason. My guitar's a little dead. This one's like a lot more life to it. It's fun, but that's the thing with those vintage instruments. Just because they're old doesn't really mean they're great. It's not like a great
you're
guitar.
right. You're right.
I love it, but this is probably a better version of that, which is cool. It's cool you guys are making better versions. Sorry, I went away for a minute, just playing this thing.
Okay.
Let's come back. Here we are. Okay. Okay, good for you. This is really cool. Now, what else do we have?
So this is our ES235,
Oh, wow.
which is the entry onto our semi-hollow line. It's part of our core line. You'll see it in all of our dealers. We're very excited about this guitar because it's got all the craftsmanship that makes our 335s, like the one you were just playing, but it offers an entry level at a price point that's really accessible, and you get that sound that you love, that you were just talking about, that's really buttery, that's really clear, where you can also get
Cool.
some
Mike, let's see this
crunchiness
thing.
to it, but made by the same hands that make, our 335s.
How cool. And I love this really, this burst is just like the tiniest burst ever, right?
Right.
It's my favorite. The 34 Jumbo, that was the burst that they were using.
That's right.
And this whole guitar is sort of a mishmash of Gibson. The body shape, we're trying to figure out what would be a very cool guitar. Well, remember the old ES 125? Remember the thin line 125?
A little bit. I mean, yeah.
See that tone?
That's what this is. We took an ES 125, a 59, thin line 125, and just sort of brought it in a little bit. So it's a little more towards the Les Paul size, but when you look at it, it's still got that vintage. You look at it and go, that's a Gibson. I'm not sure where it's from, but it's a Gibson.
So is this its own thing, a brand
Yeah.
new?
This is all new.
Because it looks so, I thought it was like some obscure
Yeah.
model I'd never seen before.
Well, that was kind of the point. We want, it still says Gibson. It doesn't
Yeah.
say, something weird, something. You look at that and you go, it's a Gibson.
Yeah.
And guys who've had some of the older ones go, I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't know where.
Right.
So the concept, John, is to, these semi-hollow guitars have now taken a life of their own, and what we wanted to bring to market is something that's more accessible.
Sure.
We are an aspirational brand, but we want to offer some accessible price points, and so that's a guitar that for that enthusiast of that semi-hollow versatility.
Right.
Because if you really think about it, if you asked me, you have to pick one guitar that can do everything. It's the 335. I can play pretty much every genre.
Carlton, yeah.
Yeah, right? So
Yeah.
this can be something that you can play for every genre of music,
Sure.
and we wanted to provide an accessible price point with the one that you're holding there, which is our 235.
Well, speaking of prices, now I know NAMM's coming up and you haven't probably established everything on your new line, but can you give us a hint? And of course, when this video's up, there will be links to stores you can buy stuff, but give us some kind of hint of where you're going, where Gibson's going.
That's
on
a good
prices.
question. So generally with our lineup, what we've done is, as we've redefined the lineup in sort of the classics and the contemporary guitars, we've also addressed pricing. And what you're going to see is pricing coming down, getting in line with expectations. You're going to see the Les Paul Standard, which we demoed earlier, that was way in the 3000s, come way inside into the 2000s range.
Wow, that's great.
With the Special and the Junior and the Classics being also accessible.
Wow. Okay, let's travel on this road a little bit. So in 1959, a standard cost what, like $230 or something like that?
The standard in 58 was, around 250 plus the case.
So adjusted for inflation, I wonder what that is today.
So
any math geniuses out there?
So that's going to be just under 3,000.
So essentially, wow, keeping it in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
it's going to be,
great.
and it's going to be inside of that when you do that apples to apple adjusted for inflation.
Huh. How cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
love
we're
that.
excited. We're excited about that. I mean, we've heard you. We've heard all of our fans talk about pricing and price increases, and we've taken that into consideration.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and then this is on your more affordable line.
And this one is the entry into our semi-hollow at $17.99.
Wow, that's great. Like a kid mowing lawns for a summer could buy this. Buy this guitar with some patience and hard work. Okay, well, very cool. Love this. Now let's look at this total weirdo you've got in your hands here. Okay, let's start with this finish.
Mike?
All right. Olive drab green. And again, this is the first time it had ever happened, but it was Chris. He had the vision for that. And at first we thought, well, that's odd. Perfect. It's gorgeous.
It is an odd choice, and it's so cool.
But it's perfect. It works so well. And he was really key for everything on that guitar. He just started with our basic ES335, but he had the vision, to go with the clear knobs. No numbers, no nothing, had to be those knobs. The VOS finish, everything had to be the matte, kind of a really cool looking finish.
Yeah,
the Lollitrons came in, and all of this was Chris, and it's a beautiful guitar.
Really? Now so tell me about these pickups.
These are the Lollitrons that he had been playing. So he brought them in. They sound great. They were just different than anything we'd ever done, quite frankly. So he brought that in. The only difference we've made on this for the tribute is we took his signature and we've inlaid that in mother of pearl on the peg head.
Oh, that's so
And they'll all be hand numbered when they come out as a tribute.
Now, is this coming from the custom shop, or is it?
Well, this is coming out of, right now, as you know, we're transitioning our production of semi-hollow into Nashville. So these are still made in Memphis.
Right. Yeah.
And we have a mini custom shop in Memphis, if you want to call it that way. So this is where these come out of.
Wow, beautiful. Great work, man. And I love the Bigsby. How much fun is this? Just dreamy, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
We're very excited about paying tribute to him. We worked with his family, and it's something we're very proud of.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Okay, well, this actually segues well into your acoustic line.
Yep.
Let's talk about some of those.
So we're very excited about these. These are the new prototypes for the Gibson Generation series. In particular, this one that you're holding is the G45.
Okay.
Which this is another one of those examples where we have Gibson being an aspirational brand
Sure.
with generally high price points because of the level of craftsmanship that goes into the instruments. But this guitar will be priced at $999,
Wow.
meant to attract new generations of players onto the acoustic instrument, made by the same hands that make our J45 and J200s.
So this
that
is made in the
it's
Bozeman plant?
Exactly. It's made in the U.S. in our Bozeman, Montana facility with all top-of-the-line appointments with a spruce top, walnut back, walnut neck. See how beautiful that shows.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're very excited about showcasing this at NAMM and giving our fans an accessible price point at $999 onto our acoustic line.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it looks very much like a J45.
Yes.
Except for kind of the finish, and
Yes.
it looks just like kind of a, I don't know, and it feels very J45.
Well, you got it. I mean, that's why we call it G45
Huh.
because it's the body of a 45.
Yeah, that bell up there.
Yeah, this is our slim 45 body that we chose to introduce this model. And this one is the G45 Studio, and this is the standard.
Oh, cool. Man, it feels like an old friend.
Yeah, well, you clearly make it sound great.
Oh, well,
But that's
I don't know about that, and it comes with a pickup as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Golly.
It's got a Fishman pickup, but now the way you're playing it, it brings all that warmth of all the different components, and you can hear it in the sound while you're playing it.
Geez, so, okay, so just out of curiosity, so the J45s are, what? I mean, that's an expensive guitar.
Yeah.
So how do you build something that's essentially the same thing and way cheaper?
Yeah, well, it's not the same thing. We're using different parts, different woods. We've really focused on how can we bring high quality parts,
Yeah.
but at a price point that people can enter into the acoustic at $999. I mean, you're right. The J45s, they're expensive instruments.
Yeah.
And they have a different type of wood and different components. But this is spruce and walnut primarily, and then
Sure.
it's got some of the appointments that you see here. And yeah, I mean, we spent months and months doing R&D and there were many different variations of prototypes until we landed on this is right.
Yeah,
I hear you
really
play
right.
it, and I know we've made the right decision. It sounds warm. It has that output. It's light.
It's so light.
Right.
It's crazy light. Yeah, that's great.
Now we're very excited about it.
Okay, awesome. And what is that one you have over there?
And so this is the G45 standard. What you're holding there is the Studio. This is a $12.99 price point.
Oh, okay.
We've gone. You can see the change. The differences really are in the fingerboard,
Yeah.
inlays, and the finish. This has a more glossy finish. That's a satin finish. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Wow. Cool. Okay, very cool. And it's so great they come out of Bozeman.
You're going to see us make a lot of noise
Yeah,
with
right.
these. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. What is next?
So why don't we transition onto our custom shop?
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Great. Great. So excited to show you now some of our custom shop guitars. With us, we have Matt Kaler, our chief geek. We talked about this earlier. We're very proud of what we've done with the custom shop, how we've dialed in by looking at original blueprints, looking at the archives, and really dialing down all the specs, dimensions, how we're building these guitars and how they sound. And we've put them in the hands of a lot of the big vintage players and collectors to get their perspective and feedback, and that process led us to what you're holding today, which is that R9, I think is the most accurate 59 replica the custom has ever made since the inception of it.
So, okay, what all went into this to make it just...
So, a couple of things. One, 2019 is the 60th anniversary of the 59 Les Paul standard, so we definitely knew we had a mission basically going in this year. So, obviously, over the last 25, 30 years, there's a legacy at the custom shop of getting that historical accuracy, and we're always trying to push the limits of what's possible. So, when we're looking at the 60th anniversary model, we're actually looking at a culmination of sorts. But a couple of the special features for 2019, 10 different core colors available, so that's 10 different variations of sunburst, this being kind of the flagship factory burst color, that deep cherry sunburst, but every other shade of sunburst is also going to be represented.
So this finish, it really looks like a 59, but I'm wondering, in 59, did they look like this, or is this kind
Some of them, most of them, I
aged-
would say most of them did when they were new, but because of the dyes that were used in the paint at the time, as you know,
Yeah.
they'd sit in a window and the next day you'd have a brown lemon burst, you know.
Sure, yeah.
So that's why there's so many different variations of sunbursts, and our fans and dealers love to do different colors and plays on that, you know, down to spots where they faded, etc. But this guitar has a bunch of tweaks inside and out this year that we're really excited about. So some are very small things, so adjusting the skew of the logo and getting the right curve of the G on the inlay, adjusting the silkscreen color and the actual fineness of the boldness of the type. So we're going to those levels. And then some are just new parts, so obviously we got a new truss rod cover, which is a one-to-one replica of the originals. And then we've got, as far as the parts goes, a lot of the same true historic parts from the program that debuted in 2015, but offered here on the regular historic platform. So these plastics have been chemically recreated from original parts.
Really?
The knobs have the exact same contours. Everything has been just cloned from the original parts. And then under the hood, we've got all new electronics on all of our historic instruments. So we've got 500K audio taper potentiometers. We've got real paper and oil capacitors that are exact replicas of the original Bumblebees. And the custom buckers now are unpotted. So we're talking about the ES guitars having unpotted
Sure.
humbuckers. Same idea, but with our custom bucker recipe, which people just seem to love. So that's the idea.
So the custom buckers are those going to be available? You could buy those individually as well.
No, you can
gotta
only get
buy the
them on a
guitar.
custom shop. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, sorry for you guys wanting to upgrade. You got to buy the whole guitar to get it. Well, great. Let me just play this thing
Yeah.
for a minute. Dreamy. Okay.
So you also, for this year, you'll get like a collateral package, 60th anniversary, different items and hang tags and whatnot. So
the case candy.
Yeah, the case candy.
Yeah,
so.
love that.
And also an original Lifton replica case with every guitar as well.
Very cool. Do they call those the Cali Girl?
Yeah, Cali Girl cases.
Where'd that
five
come
latch
from?
cases. Well, that's a geek story for another day. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, this is fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
So this is kind of, we have a giant lineup of replica models at Custom Shop, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of the guitars, the 59 and the Goldtops. But the one kind of new retro mod guitar that we're bringing for 2019 is what we're calling the Les Paul Special Figured Top. So it is a Les Paul Special. It has a figured maple top, and it's got humbuckers instead of the soap bar P90s. And it's got the ABR one and stop bar setup. So it's kind of a historic mishmash, but it works and it plays amazing, it sounds amazing, and it looks like it could have debuted in the 50s. So
yeah, it's such a, let me see this.
Yeah.
Thing. It's such, again, it's one of those kind of things, it's like, is this an old guitar or not? Because it totally has that vibe to it. It's like something you'd see in a pawn shop and think, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
There's something about this guitar that Matt very well knows. Every time I go to the custom shop, that's the first thing I pick up. I just love to play this guitar.
And where it came from is it was just a popular custom order. People wanted specials, more and more people wanted specials with figured tops on them, and then we kind of developed a scheme that really worked well. So we'll have 3 different colors, this being Bourbon Burst, but those will be price list items, and we'll also obviously open this up for customization through made to measure, and that's true for all of the instruments at Custom
And
Shop.
John, that's the interesting dynamic that once we've opened up the custom shop today, 1/3 of our production is made to measure.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting sort of feedback type mechanism for us.
Sure. So somebody has their idea of the dream guitar, they talk to you about it.
That's right.
Wow.
There's nothing we cannot do out of the custom shop. That's really the message we give people. Call, we'll work with you, we'll design your guitar.
Wow. That is cool. And these pickups, are those the...
Custom buckers, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Another new model for next year, we'll have a 64 SG. We don't have one with us today, but with the bigger neck, like the George Harrison spec SG. So
Sure.
That'll be another new one. But this is entirely new
Yeah,
for
I
Custom
love
Shop.
that guitar. I mean, I personally love that guitar. I almost want to rip it off your hands and play it myself.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Okay, cool. And, well, let me trade you,
Yeah.
since you love that one so much, and I love Goldtop so much. Let's hear about this guy.
So same idea with keeping the historical accuracy, or taking it to new heights, I should say. One thing you'll notice right off the bat, we've revised the gold color to be, we feel as accurate as ever to the 50s gold color, which is a little bit darker, it's a little green, and it really shows off that beautiful top profile of the guitar.
Yeah,
you can kind of
really
see the
does.
depth of it more. Is this a more extreme top, or does it just look that way?
Well, all of our neck profiles and our top profiles from historic instruments are actually scanned from originals. So we don't approximate, we actually use exactly the same profiles. So,
But they were all so different.
Right.
Did you just find like your favorite ones?
we find ones that kind of, well, we can kind of map them out and we see where the middle of the road is, and we
Yeah.
find one that not only our engineers feel is the best, but our fans and our artists, that,
Do you consult, like Bonamassa
of
and
course,
guys like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Say, Joe, what's your fave?
Yeah, and when it feels right, the guys who know will
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah,
so.
that dude knows.
And Joe is one of the I guess, responsible guys for us having access as well.
Right.
We have our vault,
Yeah.
but we also have access to his.
Yeah.
And we have access to others. So that's the beautiful thing about what we do at the custom shop is we go really beyond what we have in-house and go look at collections that are out there.
It's cool to kind of have the whole community involved in stuff. I mean, like Bonamassa is like a resource that I think all of us
That's right.
go to
Yeah.
when we want to know. There's something online where he's telling, like, you know, how
Yeah.
it's all done. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh,
So and
that's cool.
another thing you'll notice is we're using historically accurate fret sizes. So our 50s Les Pauls, until you hit 59, they're all going to have the smaller frets, which aren't as
Oh, it's
scary as a
small,
lot of
small.
people think. Yeah, they're not unplayable by any means. They're still tall. They're
Yeah.
just a little bit narrower. So what it is it's a different sound profile because you hear a little bit more of the rosewood fingerboard.
Oh, really?
And a slightly different playability, but by and large, it looks right and also sounds equally great.
Yeah, because these frets, it's the way it's set up, but they feel like everything like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels just so comfortable. Wow. So when you're A-Bing this to a 57, I don't know, how, like, can you tell a difference?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the question when we bring artists in. We're asking them that question, and just keeping with the Bonamassa example, Joe always believes that he would much rather trust one of these guitars over trusting a vintage guitar, just because a pot's not going to crap out on you or whatever.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
but other than that, I mean, most of the feedback we're getting is we're there. We've got the neck profiles, obviously the construction. We're replicating everything they were doing in the 50s with the long neck tenon. We're using all hide glue throughout, so the fingerboard to the neck, the top to the back, the neck joint itself is all hide glue. So
Wow, man, it's a time capsule.
And that's the concept of what we were saying earlier, which is we don't want to be the ones saying that.
Yeah.
We know we're building them
Yeah.
to that spec,
Yeah.
but we're letting players, collectors, vintage experts try them and say that, give us, and that was the process that we used to dial into that spec and that sound.
Wow. Well, congratulations. What an exciting line to have out there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And the whole lineup itself is refreshed, the historic lineup, and we're just very, very excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. This has been a great little field trip. Cesar Canhens, thank you enough, man,
Thank
for having
you.
us. Yeah, what
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
coming to our house.
Yeah,
looking at our
loved it.
stuff.
Yeah, loved it. Okay, well, till next time.